This is lesson 6, working with graphics. I have the PR0601 Premiere Pro project open. You can find this project in the PR Lessons folder that you can copy over from the DVD included with this book. Now, this project has a sequence called Central Park, and on the sequence is a video clip and some audio. What I'd like to do is create a lower third. A lower third is a kind of on-screen title. Usually it's used to tell you the location of a place, or it's usually used to tell you, when you have an interview, the person who's being interviewed and their name and their position. It's called a lower third because it's found in the lower third of the screen. You can create your lower thirds in graphics programs like Photoshop or Illustrator and then import them. That works, no problem at all. But for simple lower thirds, for simple text, it's often most efficient to use the Premiere Pro titler. The titler is simply the name for a collection of Premiere Pro panels designed specifically to add text and graphics into a video project. To create a new title, I can choose the Title menu, New Title, and there are 3 kinds of titles you can create. You can create a still, a roll, and a crawl. A still is a still image, a still title. It doesn't move, it's not animated. You can choose to animate it later manually using the Effect Controls panel, but in itself a still is just a flat image. A roll is often used to create ending credits called rolling credits. Rolling credits roll from the bottom to the top of the screen. They just kind of slide up the screen. And these are very common for ending credits in television shows. A crawl is text that moves or crawls across the screen from left to right or right to left. They're not as common as rolls are. They're sometimes used in news programs or for stock ticker type information. And both rolls and crawls are automatically animated by the mere fact that they're rolls and crawls, while stills are static images. In this case, I just want a simple lower third, so I'm going to create a default still. The new title is created, and it takes the settings of your current sequence. I'm going to give this a name. I'm going to call it NYC location, and I'll click OK. Now, if you look in your project panel, there's a new entry, NYC location, that's been added, and when you click OK, the program opens the titler. The titler is simply this collection of panels. The title panel, title tools panel, title properties panel, all of these together are the titler. They are accessible under Window, they're just the ones at the bottom. But whenever you double-click on a title and whenever you create a new title, they automatically appear. I'm going to expand them so that they're full screen size. Just give myself a little more space to work with. Now, by default, the titler shows you the video that's currently beneath your playhead. That's possible because of the little Show Background Video button that you find in the upper right-hand corner of the title panel. You can change which part of the video is displayed. But in this case, I want my title to be at the beginning of the timeline, so I want to make sure it's at the origin, 00, 00, 00, 00, 00. 4 sets of zeros. Now I'm ready to make my title. The titler works in a very similar fashion for users of Adobe Illustrator and Photoshop. It works in a very similar fashion to those applications. I have the selection tool, which allows me to select and move things. The rotation tool rotates whatever I have selected. Because remember, you've got to select it to affect it. I have tools for creating type. There's 6 of them. Type tool, which creates a type box or type. The area type tool creates a type area, a box of text. The type tool can do that as well, by the way, so some of the functionality is shared between the two. And the path type tool, which allows me to create text that follows a specific path. Then there are vertical versions of these tools. Like in graphics applications like Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, and After Effects, we have the Pin tool. The Pin tool allows you to create custom paths. We also have a series of shape tools, rectangle, ellipse, lines, which allow you to create really simple geometric shapes. So I want to use the Type tool, and I want to create some text. Now, in the title panel, you have an overlay. It's called the Action and Title Safe or Safe Margins overlay. The interior rectangle represents approximately 80% of your screen space, and it's the title safe area. The outer rectangle, the outer gray rectangle, is the action safe area, and it represents about 90% of your screen space. These exist so that you can have a margin to know where on your screen will usually display on all television sets. You can create content outside of it, and if you're creating video that's going to display on a computer monitor, you can ignore it completely. But if you're creating video that's going to be broadcast, you're going to want to keep these margins visible. If you draw your text outside of the title safe area, you cannot guarantee that it's going to display on all screens. And sometimes on television, you'll see text that's been cut off. And sometimes it's because people simply do not pay attention to the action and title safe margins. Sometimes if you're on a television that's really cropping the screen, but sometimes it is user error. So in this case, I'm going to assume this is going to be used for broadcast, so I'm going to pay attention to the title safe areas. If you wanted to turn them off, you can disable them from the panel menu to the right of the title panel. You can turn off the safe title margin and the safe action margin, but I'll keep them on in this case. And I want to create my text inside of them. So I'm clicking and dragging with my type tool. I'm clicking and dragging from the upper left to the lower right while still staying inside the title safe margin. When I let go of my cursor, I have a blinking insert cursor and I can start typing. So when I have a text box, this program works exactly like any other Adobe application with text, and it also works like Word if you're used to that. Whatever the last text that I used is the default, that becomes what this text displays as. It's going to default to 100 pixels high, and I can see all of that over in the title properties panel on the right. I don't like this font. I want to change it. So I simply click and drag over the text to highlight it. And in my font family property, I can choose any font installed on the computer. Like so. I'm going to change this to Georgia. Thick, heavier font, easier to see. Size is also optional. You don't have to have 100. You can do whatever you like. Now let's say that I want to keep Central Park at 100, but I want to make New York City, New York smaller. So I'll simply highlight New York City, New York, the second line, same way you would in any program that lets you edit text. And I'm going to scrub the font size value down. If I hover my cursor over the font size value without clicking, it becomes a little finger icon with arrows next to it. In one motion, if I click and drag left, I can scrub the value. I can reduce it very rapidly. If I move it to the right, I can increase it. So I can use this to very rapidly change the size of text. If you want to change the text size more rapidly, you can hold down the Shift key while you're scrubbing. If you want to change the text size slower, if you want to change the text size more slowly, you can hold down the Command on Mac, or on Windows, you'd hold down the Control key, and the values change in a much more subtle fashion. When using the hot text slider, or as I like to call it, the value scrubber, you can use Shift to scrub in larger values, to change it in larger values, and you can use Command or Control to change the values at a much slower rate. And that works with any field that allows you to scrub or slide the values. You can also just type it in. So if I say I want this text to be 55, I can simply type in 55 and press return. And I can set this exactly to where I want. If you've ever worked with any program that allows you to edit text, even Word, you'll find that a lot of the properties here are very similar to you. Leading is the space between lines, so I can increase that and pushes the text further away, or I can decrease it to push the text closer together, to push each line of text closer to the one above it. I'm going to go back to 0, which is a default. Kerning is the space between letters. Tracking is an equidistant space between all letters, and it also counts as word spacing. Again, I can just change that to whatever value I like. So if you've ever worked with any application that allows you to edit text, these are really pretty similar to anything ever. If you've ever worked with any program that allows you to edit text and edit fonts, this should be a really quick learning curve for you. You can also control not only the appearance of text, but you can control the color with the fill section. By default, I have white text, but I can always click on the fill color box and change it. I'll make it a light gray. I'll just click on the standard Adobe color picker. I can also type in values using any of these color systems. Okay, so that's the new color. I can also add strokes or outlines to text. I'm going to highlight all my text. I'm going to go to the stroke section, and I want to add an outer stroke, a stroke on the outside of my text. So I'll click Add. I then have the ability to set the options for that stroke. I'll change the size to 15 in this case. Make it thicker and a little bolder, easier to see. I can change the color, I can change the opacity of the stroke. You can even add shadows, drop shadows to content. In this case, it wouldn't help it to be seen against that multicolored background, but you can definitely add it. If you don't want your title to be transparent so that you can actually see through it and see the video behind it, you can always choose to add a background to the title itself. And that just makes a colored background for the title. I'm going to turn that off. I actually want to display this on top of text. Now, I can switch to my selection tool, which allows me to move my text around very quickly and easily. So if you've ever used any other Adobe application for creating content, if you've ever used any graphics application, you'll find that a lot of the tools here are very similar and are probably very familiar to you. Now, one thing I'd want to do is it's a little hard to read text when it's in front of an image, so I'd like to add a box behind the text. So I'm going to activate the rectangle tool, and I'm just going to click and drag to create a rectangle that runs from outside the video on the left to the bottom and outside of the video on the right. And you can resize this if you want when you have the rectangle tool active. It's going to take on the settings that I used last in the title properties panel. So it has a outer stroke, which I can delete by clicking the delete button. I'd also like to move it behind my text, because now I can't see the text. When you're creating content here in the titler, whatever you create last is always in front. So I'm going to right click on the text box while it's selected. Arrange, I'm going to send it to back. That puts it behind everything else that's in the title, putting it behind the text. Now, the only problem with this giant white box is that it kind of cuts off the video. And it kind of acts like a frame or empty space or looks really unusual. So what I'd like to do while the box is still highlighted is lower the opacity of the box. Like so. I'm going to click and make it 40. Now this makes the box semi-transparent, so it makes it easier to read the text because now it provides a slight backdrop behind the text that dulls out the color of whatever video is behind it. So it's very common to put a frame around your text so that you can see it better. The reason I'm running it to the full edge is because if I'm displaying this on a computer screen where the entire video frame is visible, I don't want to be able to see the box ending. I just visually think it's more appealing to have it run to the outside of the entire frame. I like this, it's pretty cool. If you close the titler and return to the project panel, you'll notice that you now have a NYC location title that was created when we made the new title. And I'm just going to click on it and drag it into the timeline. And I'm going to drag it above my video footage. And because the title is semi-transparent and fully transparent, where there was nothing added, we can see right through the title to the video behind. If I click spacebar to preview, we can see the effect of our lower third. So lower thirds can be a really helpful tool to convey additional information to your viewer. They're most commonly used in news and documentary style footage, but every so often you'll see some creative use of lower thirds in dramatic work. But normally you find them in very specific types of environments, very specific types of projects. And the titler makes an excellent tool for creating them. One last thing. If you'd like to edit your title, maybe you don't like the white color of the box. In the project panel, simply double-clicking on the title reopens the titler panel. I can then take my selection tool, I can click on the color box, and I'll change the color. I'll make it orange. I'll click the color slider, select right to orange, and then I'm going to click inside of the large square field to choose my color. In the color picker, the bottom section of this split rectangle is your previous color. The top is your current color. Okay? And now I have an orange tinted box. There's nothing to save. All I've got to do is close the titler, and those effects have been changed. So that editing the title in the titler is an immediate effect. There's nothing to save. There's nothing to export. You're working with the title live in the titler, and it changes that title wherever it was used in your document. In this video, you've learned how to create a title using the titler. You've learned some of the features of the titler, and you can find more of those in the Digital Classroom book. And you've learned how to add a title to the timeline. So hopefully you'll find that the titler is a really quick and really good tool for quickly adding text and graphics to your projects.